First of all, we'd like to welcome everybody. Have some special guests here today that I'll introduce at this time, but they will come up a little later to speak. We know that the reveal is really what's on your mind. It's on all our minds, and we won't be able to concentrate on anybody else until we get that done. But I would like to thank our past presidents, Julie Schattinger over here at the membership desk, and Ginny Purvis. Ginny, where are you?
She might be in.
Okay. Well, Ginny Purvis, most of you will know her anyways, for the wonderful presentation, the beach theme on the snacks and appetizers. Thank you. I would like to introduce the Carmel Clay Public Library's director, and that would be Bob Swaney, and he'll have a few words to say later. And our other guest, and a lot of you see him working hard over here, is Jeff Worrell from Carmel. Good Day Carmel.
Good Day Carmel.
Good Day Carmel, videoing. And he's city.
Good Day Carmel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And city councilor. And
Sharon,
yes.
it might just be nice to say, you know, Jeff has always been our ardent supporter, and he has never missed one reveal, and he is also our city councilman.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay. And our new MC for the luncheon this year is here. Her name is Lori Borgman, and I will tell you a lot about her a little later, and she will speak to us a little later. So Lori, you just want to stand up and wave to everybody so they know who you are. Okay. I think I have covered everybody, the guests. And author selection committee, I'm calling it a committee, but each individual has big contributions to that committee. It's not an easy thing to pull together. Ann Hoover is going to start us off with the reveal. Ann?
Well, welcome to all of you. I know you're anxious to hear, and the committee is anxious to let you hear it at this point. Oh, okay, I'll move down this way.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anyway, okay. Reveal can be interpreted in two ways. Bad, if you reveal a secret that you promised a friend you would not tell, and good, if you announce you are expecting a baby. Now, none of us on the committee are in that situation. For those of us today, but it is like a birth announcement. As the three of us can attest, there is a lot of time and effort spent in discovering just the right books and authors for the Gilded Leaf events. Deborah, Dale, Michelle, and I feel that we have done that and can't wait to share them with you today. Deborah found an elegant and eerie debut novel. Dale found a wonderful combination of historical fiction and lighthearted detective fiction in the mystery book she selected, and she continued her quest to bring an award-winning novelist whose dramatic new novel is about a family divided and united by its most vulnerable member. Michelle has captured the imagination in a children's book for grades 3 through 7. It is a non-stop action with dinosaurs and kids on the run. I had the great pleasure of meeting interesting people and their places in our history. The first is a happy birthday celebration story in honor of World War I. Imagine taking a luxury cruise ship, most of you probably have been on at least one, and refitting it to carry thousands of soldiers. And among them are a future president, a general, a famous New York writer, and a well-known actor. Their experiences and personal stories, many told for the first time, offer a vivid look at America's dramatic appearance on the world stage. The second nonfiction book, I'm just going to use the tagline for it, because once you see the cover, you're going to be hooked. The tagline for the other nonfiction book is a story of soldiers, family, and an inexplicable crime. This is the author's years-long effort to discover the unbelievable truth hidden within a crime story unlike no other. Once you start reading it, as one of his reviewers said, you won't want to put it down. So I've just given you like a little taste of these books. So now Deborah, Dale, Michelle, and I will tell you more about the books and introduce you to the authors. And because it was requested, so we responded, everyone wanted a children's book, so we're going to start with Michelle to tell you about the children's book.
You being Vanna? She's Vanna. You have to be Vanna. Tell me when you want me to turn. Okay, I will. Hi, everyone. I just want to say it's fun to look out and see so many friendly faces, people that I haven't seen for a while. I want to thank all of you for giving me the privilege of selecting the children's author for the fall events. I've enjoyed working with this group of women and Liz on our little journey this year. As some of you know, it's like children's literacy is something that's just near and dear to my heart. It's something I feel passionate about. So I'm one of those people that can spend countless hours in the library or a bookstore just perusing the children's section alone. I'm excited to introduce all of you to our children's author, Laura Martin, who will be our featured children's author this year. She's an Indiana author who's written the Edge of Extinction series. Her first book was The Ark Plan, which was released May of last year by HarperCollins. And her second book is Codename Flood, which came out May of this year. 3 words that will tell you just a little bit about her books are dinosaurs, friendships, and survival. The main characters are a female and 2 males, so I'm hoping that the storyline will have broad appeal to our attendees who would be purchasing her books. Her books are written for what they classify as a middle reader, which is age 8 to 14, and women over 50. I've enjoyed them. It's not like John Green, because it's different than John Green, but you know how John Green is like a young adult writer, and how all of us have read his books and loved them? That's kind of how I feel about Laura. And I don't know if it's just me because I'm more kid-like than maybe some of you, but I've loved it. And I haven't gotten through the second book, but I'm almost finished with the first, and I'm having a fun time. I just want to share a little bit about Laura and use her own words as she tells you how she became a writer. I think it demonstrates just her personality and just how fun-loving she is. She says she comes from a long line of garbage men who worked long hours and wore excessive amounts of gold jewelry, and she's darn proud of it. But after our many summers spent filling garbage-related files, working dispatch for roll-off containers, selling dumpsters, working in a landfill scale house, and answering phone calls from angry customers who thought that the raccoon who got into her trash was somehow her problem. She knew it was not for her. What Laura really wanted to do was become a veterinarian. That clearly didn't work out, mainly because her brain does great things with words and writing, but it refuses flat out to comprehend math. Her SAT scores were so uneven it was comical, but not really. So realizing that God gives us gifts for a reason, she went to Butler University to be an English teacher. Then at the last minute, she decided to tack on a creative writing major as well. Because she was raised by a frugal Dutchman, so 2 majors for the price of 1 just made sense. After graduating from college with her 2 for the price of 1 majors, she taught 7th grade English at Clay here in Carmel for 6 years and loved it. She says that if she hadn't had a daughter following the release of her book deal, she would still be teaching today. But babies don't stay babies forever, and she realized a long time ago, and I love this part, that you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything. And this mom gig is just too important to mess with. That, and when one finally catches a dream they've been chasing for years, one gives it every ounce of their available non-mom time. At least that's her philosophy. I just want to share, she lives in Zionsville with her husband and her 2 children, Lincoln and London. She says she has 2 very opinionated bulldogs also. And also I learned that HarperCollins has signed her to 2 more books, one to come out next year and then the following year. So with that, I'm dead. I get to do Vanna White, so just not it.
Okay, I will. Hi there. I had the fortunate opportunity to do the debut author. She's very secretive, couldn't find a lot about her. She is a graduate of New York University's Gallatin School of Individualized Study, and she works as an assistant editor at Riverhead Books. This is her debut novel, and I'm going to read, like I said, there was very little I could find about her. Being new to, can I give you the name of my book now? Okay. Her name is Danya Kakafalka. I can't even say it, and the book is called Girl in the Snow. And one of the reasons that I picked this is every single site I went to, her name kept coming to the top, coming to the top, coming to the top. So I just started reaching out, and it's a Simon & Schuster publication, and she got wonderful reviews from a lot of different authors that are out there. From this startling opening line right through to its stunning conclusion, Girl in the Snow is perfectly paced and taunting plotted thriller. It has a misfit of characters that are richly drawn. Her prose is both elegant and eerie. This is an incredible accomplishment debut. So she got some really good write-up on her information. An exciting debut from a talented new voice. Girl in the Snow is a propulsive mystery set in a suburban community marked by unsettling voyeurism. Danya patiently reveals layers of her characters' inner lives, their ugliness and vulnerabilities in prose that sparkles and wounds. I couldn't put this one down. So there's lots of people that have read it that are really good authors out there. So I hope you enjoy it. Like I said, I didn't have much to tell you about this book. I hope that it's going to be a good one. She seems like a lovely person. She actually emailed me, and so did her editor, her publicist. Really nice communications with them both. So hope you like that one. Should I just flip this? Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to see so many people here today. I'm very excited that we get a chance to announce all of these wonderful authors to you. I think that this particular author, her name is Janet Peary, and the name of her book is The Exact Nature of Our Wrongs. And in our literary category, we are fortunate to have Janet Peary as one of our speakers. Janet had a series of different jobs when her children were young, including fast food counter worker, lifeguarding, speech therapist, and hospital respiratory therapist. She was not able to go to graduate school until her children were in school. So like Laura Martin, she had to spend some time making sure to make enough money to raise the children, and then later on she was able to go to graduate school. After that, she published many short stories in literary journals and won many awards, including the Seton Award, 2 Pushcart Awards, and inclusion in the Best Pushcart Prize. It was not until her 40s that she wrote her first novel, The River Beyond the World, which was a finalist for the National Book Award in 1996. What the Thunder Said novella and stories, won the Library of Virginia Literary Award for Fiction in 2008 and the 2008 Willa Award from Women Writing the West for Contemporary Fiction. Peary's other numerous honors include the Rosenthal Award from the Academy of Arts and Letters and awards from the Whiting Foundation, the Guggenheim Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Arts. Currently, Peary teaches at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, and lives in Cape Charles, Virginia. Peary has been acclaimed for her gorgeous writing and clear-eyed gaze into the hearts of people. She now returns with her second novel, The Exact Nature of Wrongs. The sale date is September 19th, and the book is published by St. Martin's Press. Never have the highs and lows of love and sacrifice, of addiction and enabling, and the inevitable passage of time been so eloquently rendered in the moments and memories of everyday life, says Jill McCorkle of the new book, which took Peary over 10 years to write. On a summer evening in the blue-collar town of Amicus, Kansas, the Campbell family gathers for a birthday dinner for their ailing patriarch, Town Judge Abel Campbell, prepared and hosted by their still-hale mother, Hattie. But when Billy, the youngest sibling, with a history of addiction, grand ideas, and misdemeanors, passes out in the devil's food cake, the family takes up the unfinished business of Billy's sobriety. Billy's misadventures have too long consumed their lives, in particular Hattie's, who has enabled his transgressions while trying to save him from Abel's disappointment. As the older children, Doro, Jessie, Clarabelle, and Gideon, contend with their own failures, they compete for the approval of the elderly parents they adore, but can't quite forgive. With knowing humor and sure-handed storytelling, Janet Peary reveals a family at its best and worst, with old wounds and new, its fractures and feuds, and yet its unbreakable bonds. We look forward to having Janet join us as a speaker at our luncheon. And I will say that those of you who love the command of the English language, good literature, she writes incredibly well and has won awards as a teacher at Old Dominion and in the state of Virginia as well, because she's a very special teacher, but her writing is just very, very good. Now in our next category, we have Amy Stewart, and the name of her book is Miss Copp's Midnight Confessions. In our historical fiction category, our author is Amy Stewart. Amy is the author of 9 books, including 4 New York Times bestsellers. She lives in Eureka, California, with her husband, Scott Brown, who is a rare book dealer. They own an independent bookstore, which is housed in a 19th century building that Amy very much hopes is haunted. She has appeared on NPR's Morning Edition and Fresh Air. She's been profiled in the New York Times and the San Francisco Chronicle, and she's been featured on CBS Sunday Morning, Good Morning America, the PBS documentary, which is called The Botany of Desire, and, believe it or not, TLC's Cake Boss. Amy's books have been translated into 16 languages, and 2 of them, Wicked Plants and Wicked Bugs, have been adapted into national traveling exhibits that appear at botanical gardens and museums nationwide. She is the recipient of a National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship, the American Horticulture Society's Book Award, and an International Association of Culinary Professionals Food Writing Award. In 2012, she was invited to be the first Tin House Writer-in-Residence, a partnership with Portland State University, where she taught in the MFA program. Amy is a public speaker at various places nationwide, at universities and corporate offices, which include Google, where she served tequila and nearly broke the internet. She has also spoken at botanical gardens, garden clubs, book clubs, etc. Some of her books include Wicked Plants, The Weed That Killed Lincoln's Mother, and Other Botanical Atrocities, which is a compendium of poisonous invasive plants. It hit number 8 on the New York Times bestseller list. Wicked Bugs, The Louse That Conquered Napoleon's Army and Other Diabolical Insects, a compendium of poisonous, painful insects. The Drunken Botanist, The Plants That Create the World's Great Drinks, which was the winner of the International Association of Culinary Professional Judges Award. Since 2015, Amy has been claiming hearts and minds with her popular Cop Sisters series, based on the true life story of one of country's of the country's first female deputy sheriffs and are not to be messed with family, the first book, Girl Waits with Gun, tells how 100 years ago, feisty, fearless Constance Kopp arrested attention along with criminals. In her second book, Lady Kopp Makes Trouble, Constance heads to New York City, making friends with girl reporters and lady lawyers while earning her badge. In Amy's newest Kopp sisters book, Miss Kopp's Midnight Confessions, which will be released on September 5th by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, Amy continues her extraordinary journey into the real lives of the forgotten but fabulous Kopp sisters. Deputy Sheriff Constance Kopp is outraged to see young women brought into the Hackensack jail over dubious charges of waywardness, incorrigibility, and moral depravity. The strong-willed, patriotic Edna Eustace, who left home to work in a munitions factory, certainly doesn't belong behind bars. And 16-year-old runaway Minnie Davis, with few prospects and fewer friends, shouldn't be publicly shamed and packed off to a state-run reformatory. But such were the laws and the morals of 1916. Constance uses her authority as deputy sheriff, and occasionally exceeds it, to investigate and defend these women when no one else will. But it's her sister Fleurette who puts Constance's beliefs to the test and forces her to reckon with her own ideas of how a young woman should and shouldn't behave. Against the backdrop of World War I, and drawn once again from the true story of the Kopp sisters, Miss Kopp's Midnight Confessions is a spirited, page-turning story that will delight fans of historical fiction and lighthearted detective fictions alike. Amy Stewart seems to me to be a bit of a Renaissance woman. She's a Renaissance woman, not a Renaissance man. Not only is she a wonderful writer, but also an expert gardener, a natural scientist, a painter, and an experienced cocktail maker. In fact, with each of her Kopp sister books, she mixes up a wonderful cocktail. Her chosen drink for Miss Kopp's Midnight Confessions is called the Midnight. The Midnight is 1 ounce of gin, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, fresh squeezed juice of an orange or grapefruit, and a dash of absinthe. I think that we are going to have a lot of fun with Amy as one of our authors at the luncheon. Thank you.
See, everybody wanted to play Vanna. This is the only way we could do it. Well, just so that you know, it won't be an all-female panel. I actually ended up with 2 men authors that I am going to talk to you about. The first one is Peter Hernan, and his book is The Great Rescue: American Heroes, an Iconic Ship, and Saving Europe During World War I. On April the 6th in 1917, the United States joined its allies, Britain, France, and Russia, to fight in World War I. Books about the Great War are being published to great fanfare this year to commemorate this anniversary. So we are bringing journalist Peter Hernan's new book, The Great Rescue, to the library. This never-told-before story of the USS Leviathan, and my son-in-law has tried to tell me how to pronounce this, Leviathan. And the extraordinary men and women who sailed on her in World War I. After all the individuals featured in this book, some famous or soon to be, more ordinary, were caught up in a cataclysm that left 10 million dead, set the stage for another war, and reshaped the modern world. The journeys of the ship through U-boat infested waters was a conspicuous chapter in 2 global catastrophes, the Great War and the flu pandemic of 1918. And while the Leviathan's thriller could have been just about this flu pandemic, nearly 100 men died on the one trip, and that remains only a part of a much larger story. Although the United States reluctantly joined the war in 1917, only a trickle of American soldiers had reached France by 1918. Close to defeat, the Allies were facing a final massive offensive from the battered German army determined to crush France and England before the doughboys arrived. Racing against time, the Leviathan delivered troops to the battle in unprecedented numbers, helping America turn the tide before it was too late. Trapped in New York, when the war broke out in August 14th, the German ship was 1,000 feet long, and from her Ritz-Carlton dining room to her extravagant grand staircase, she was a masterpiece of elegance and majestic size. She was built immediately after the Titanic, so she also was quite safe. Originally named the Vaterland, the ship was seized by the U.S. Navy when America entered the conflict and quickly refitted as an armed troop transport. Renamed the Leviathan by President Woodrow Wilson, it was the largest, fastest of the dozens of transports that ultimately ferried 2 million American soldiers across the North Atlantic. Her exploits captured the country's imagination and triggered an all-out German effort to sink her. It is truly a fascinating book. My husband read it and said, "You got to read this. It's wonderful." And one of the first bits of publicity we've had received by our books is this book. There was a review of it in the Wall Street Journal. And you might see this book in the bookstores because it came out in June. So that is something a little bit different than what we try to do. The interesting thing about Peter Hernan is not only is he a newspaper writer, and he was with the St. Louis Dispatch as well, and also has written several books. His background is in the library. He has his doctorate in library science and is a professor in the library system. And interestingly enough, I have a list that I'm going to give the Readers Committee of all the books that are available here in the library by these authors, so that if you don't get to read the one we're having, you could read another one. And she looked at me and she said, "You know, somehow that name sounds so familiar." And she said, "I don't know, it's been a long time since I've been at IU." And I said, "Well, he's 72 years old." And she said, "That's it." I said, "Oh, great." He was her instructor. He was down there getting his doctorate from IU, and he was her instructor in his class. So I said, "Well, come down and meet him. That'll be interesting." So he's written a lot of books about library science and research, and most of his award winners have been in that. He does have a book which is in our library about, it's called Under the Influence, about the Anheuser-Busch family. So in a town that has lots of beer breweries around, there might be many of you that will be interested in that. My next book is called Ranger Games. And this book just caught me from the very beginning. It's a story, Ranger Games, by Ben Bloom. It's a story of soldiers, families, and an inexplicable crime. And it took Ben Bloom over 10 years to tell this story and to have it published. Ben Bloom grew up in a family of all-American alpha males in Colorado. His father and uncles were easygoing, rough and tumble jocks who made their fortunes in real estate. The star of the family, though, was Ben's first cousin, Alex Bloom. He was a handsome hockey protege, popular in school with his peers and teachers. But despite all of this, from the time he was little, Alex wanted most in life to join the military and become an elite United States Army Ranger, to join the war on terror and fight enemy combatants in the Middle East. Now, to become a Ranger requires an almost unimaginable training regime, and very few make the cut. But from a young age, the Ranger Code of Honor, the Ranger Creed, was Alex's obsession. And by August the 7th, 2006, he had achieved his goal. Alex finished his final training near a base in Tacoma, Washington, and that afternoon he was supposed to fly home for a short visit with his family and his girlfriend. And then he was going to return to be deployed to Iraq to fulfill his lifelong dream. But Alex didn't make it to Iraq. Instead, on that day, and in the company of 2 other Army Rangers and 2 strangers, he drove to a local bank and committed armed robbery. The obvious question that haunted the Bloom family for weeks and months to come was, why? How could this happen to him? Well, Ben Bloom presents a knotty, compelling mystery whose solution lies in the human mind and the human heart. There are many twists and turns in the book, as well as a memorial piece set in a surreal appearance on the Dr. Phil show. And I'm not going to read the next sentence because it's tells you a little bit more about the book, and I think you should know. The suspense lies not just in the mystery of why Alex committed such an inexplicable crime, but Ben's agonized realization as the family and the cousin he had come to love as a brother are shattered by what he learns throughout his investigation. Now, if that doesn't tickle your interest, I don't know what will. It is just a wonderful book. And Ben Bloom, he is a debut writer. So Ben Bloom's claim to fame is he is a mathematic prodigy all of his life. He went off to college and got his doctorate in computer science and all of this. Math was his thing. And then he decided he wanted to be a writer. And so he went to the New York University and was teaching there for a while. Anyway, you'll see what a good writer he is as I close this off. One of the things that Ben Bloom did after writing this book was to write a letter to libraries all around the country who might be interested in his book and his feeling about libraries. And I'm not going to read it all, and I know Liz has told me she's going to send it to all the staff because it's a magnificent tribute to libraries and librarians. He wrote this: "My mother was a librarian in the drafty old Archdiocese building in downtown Denver, where my siblings and I went to school. She presided over a wonderland of books on the top floor. Its sleepy alcoves offered the comfort of familiar stories, but its higher shelves promised thrilling new adventures. Whenever I felt stuck or uninspired with my mathematical schoolwork, I would wander upstairs to check in on Mom, who took a great deal of delight in placing the right book in the right hands. So thank you, librarians, for inviting us so warmly into the realm of knowledge, for highlighting the titles we didn't know we needed, and for putting the right books in our hands. It is a great honor, after all the hundreds that I have checked out over the years, to be giving back one to you. It is my fondest hope that it might one day prove to be the right book for someone too." So, in closing, I would say this. To paraphrase Ben Bloom, I speak for all of us on the committee, it is our fondest hope that we might just put the right book or books in the hands of our members and our guests at the Gilded Leaf events. Thank you.